Defeated in the First World War, Germany was broken and battered from mass unemployment, political extremism on both ends of the spectrum, and inflation. It was in this tumultuous climate that the Weimar Republic was born. Yes, there was economic suffering, but this was a period of extremes. It was the era of misery and glamour. Two artists that documented the interwar years extensively were Otto Dix and August Sander. Now, on the surface, their imagery seems miles apart. Sander's portraits are static and poised, and Dix's paintings are lurid and chaotic. But their work shares many of the same themes and characteristics. Deeply affected by his experience as a soldier in the war, Dix returned to Dresden to find solace in art. He became part of the new objectivity movement. This was a form of social realism that unsentimentally examined the intoxicating decadence, but also the underlying social inequality of the post-war German period. Prostitutes, injured war veterans, satirical depictions of the intellectual elite. For Dix, these were all symbols of a society that was morally and physically damaged. This was the bleaker side of the Weimar, what Dix called life undiluted. This idea is similar to the approach that Sander took. He said, "It is not my intention either to criticize or to describe these people, but to create a piece of history with my pictures." And he certainly achieved that with his encyclopedic series, People of the 20th Century. By documenting a cross-section of the nation, he created a kind of photographic atlas of German society and leaves us with a unique form of contemporary objective witness. By the mid-1920s, the German economy had begun to stabilize thanks to loans from America and the introduction of the Rentenmarkt to control hyperinflation. It was at this time that the Weimar Republic entered its so-called golden years. The economic revival saw many seek out new forms of leisure and entertainment, such as the Weimar cabaret, which represented a seductive underworld with its permissive approach to gender, sexuality, and ethnicity. It was this cultural explosion which Dix was capturing in his paintings. He said, "Painting is the effort to produce order, order in yourself. There is much chaos in me, much chaos in our time." But the casual hedonism and consumerism of the period was beginning to be seen in some quarters as immoral and decadent. And what's more, the gap between the rich and the poor had never been greater. In 1929, Germany plunged into economic despair yet again. Less than 15 years after it had been established, Weimar Germany was brought brutally to a halt. In the 1932 elections, the Nazis became the largest party. Within a year, Hitler was in the Reichstag. Clubs and theatres were shut, books were burned on the streets, and fierce campaigns were launched against anything that didn't toe the Nazi party line. Like many modern artists, Dix became a target for the Nazis. He lost his teaching position at the Dresden Academy, and several of his paintings, such as the portrait of the jeweller Karl Krau, were confiscated by the Nazis and shown in the 1937 Degenerate Art Exhibition. Sander's work and personal life were also greatly constrained under the Nazi regime. His first book, Face of Our Time, was banned, and many of his printing plates were destroyed. His son Erich, a member of the left-wing Socialist Workers' Party, was arrested in 1934 and sentenced to 10 years in prison, where he died, having been denied medical assistance. However, Sander continued to work passionately on his project into the 1950s, leaving an incredible body of work of over 40,000 images and influencing photographers such as Diane Arbus, Walker Evans, and Irving Penn, amongst many others. The portraits that Dix and Sander left behind bear witness to the chaotic period in which they lived, but they also address the universal by presenting us with the human condition. Their work acts as a poignant reminder about the importance of artistic expression and how an artwork can stand for a time and a place. But more importantly, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to reflect upon ourselves and the turbulent times in which we live.